Hello, everyone. This is Amanollah with another episode of Pronoia. And I'm very excited to have Roger, our dear Roger, that with the last time conversation brought up lots of questions for me. So first I'm going to ask my questions, and then later maybe I ask your questions. You
Right.
you said that you start with in that herb place uh, uh, because your intention was learning a certain body work. What kind of body work that master was teaching?
It was Jin Shin Do,
Jin.
which is a derivative of Jin Shin Jitsu, I'm pretty sure, from Japan,
Yeah.
which was taught by a master named Mary Burmeister. And I'm pretty sure my teacher, when he went to Japan to study it, made it simpler and easier to understand for Westerners. And he kind of incorporated into his knowledge of Chinese medicine, because it's all Chinese medicine. It just goes to different countries and becomes their version of everything. That's what it is. And so he made it easier and called it Jin Shin Do.
Got it. Excellent. And the tea, the famous tea that you drank and everybody else drank, but nobody got what you got. What was that tea?
That tea is really funny. That tea was based on reishi mushroom, which at the time, you can find reishi on every website known to man now.
Yes.
But it's not the most times it's not the form of it that has a really powerful effect on your spirit or your energy body. But at the time when I was starting out in the shop, you couldn't find it anywhere. One company sold reishi in a capsule that was actually a powdered extract. Almost everybody else, if they had it, was grinding up reishi mushrooms and putting them in a cap, which is pretty much worthless because it's a wood. Reishi mushroom is a wood. You can boil it for 3 days, pull it out, and it looks exactly the same except that it's wet.
Wow.
You have to slice it and extract it through boiling, but the mushroom itself you can't eat. It's a piece of wood. And so we were the only shop that really sold reishi mushroom that might work. And we had gotten some mycelium to try to grow some. And we had a little herb shed out behind the store that we just stored herbs in. And we had this packet of reishi sitting up on a shelf out of the way in the dark, and it threw off spores. And the mushroom that we used in that tea actually was growing on a board in the shop. We found it one day. It was about this tall, and it had little antlers on it. It was an antler reishi. So we pulled it out of there and we cut it up and we made the tea out of that.
I remember actually in 90s, Zorka and Daniel gave me some of that tea. Probably they got it from you, and I tried it. Interesting. Now, also you mentioned someone someone gave you some a spiritual master who gave you some direction. This was a in-person master, or it was in a dream or something?
Direction on, to clarify it, direction on what? To make something?
Yeah. In the last episode when we were talking, you mentioned about this spiritual direction or instruction that you were receiving from this spiritual master.
Okay. Well, twice in my life, just to cover the bases, twice in my life, I had dreams where I was working with a master. One of them was when I was making a Chinese herb formula. A Chinese master appeared to me in my sleep, and then him and I formulated something that I turned into a product. And I was asking him questions. It was a dream that I was interacting in. I was asking him questions about different herbs I wanted to use and how much I would use of it. And that's how I came up with that formula, which turned out to be very unbelievable.
Wow.
And so that was the one time. The second time, that was my guru. I follow a spiritual path of Kriya Yoga, and Yogananda appeared to me in my dream when I was going through my cancer journey. And it's pretty funny to me. It's pretty mind-blowing that he appeared. And it wasn't just a dream, because he instructed me to take a substance to try that I hadn't thought of. And, even though I knew something about it, I never thought of it for my own situation. And it's a drug. He instructed me to take a drug. But this is the part I find funny, that he told me to look into low dose naltrexone. And I thought that was a pretty wild message to get from Yogananda. Low dose naltrexone. But I woke up the next morning, and by noon that day, I had a prescription in my hand. My friend sent one in, my doctor friend, and I had it. And I always wanted to take it. And it was, at the time, because of my background, I love finding new things and testing them. And I had always seen that. Now I had it in my hand. I got so excited that I had this thing in my hand. Plus, my guru had told me to take it. So I started taking it that night. I took it probably for 6 months. And it's a real simple protocol. You take one little cap. Naltrexone is often used to offset drug use, but they give you 50 milligrams or 100. With what you're doing, in my case, is like 2 milligrams. And it just shuts off some molecules in your brain for about 4 or 5 hours. And then your endorphins kick in, and then your immune system goes up, and it regulates. It's often used for autoimmune disease, most often famous for things like, lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, things like that. But so it's a very low dose. You don't notice anything when you wake up from it. But you don't want to be awake during it, because you're going to feel really down for 3 or 4 hours while your brain acclimates to the drug, and then it goes away, right? So it all happens while you're asleep. So it was pretty exciting to me. And I ended up being on it for about 6 months. And I think it's one of those protocols that a lot of people don't ever think about, but it's something that works quite well. And there's a lot of success with certain autoimmune diseases on the internet from it. They document a lot of it. And so MS is the one that's most famous for, or used for the most, is MS.
Got it. Wow. Very interesting. So both of your interaction was not in person, in a physical realm. It was
No, it was, and you would think I'm just dreaming it, but if you ever do dream yoga is about training yourself to be awake and participate in your dreams. So I had been doing that for a while. And so, and with my first guy, the Chinese master, I had never known anything about it, but I was awake and aware and asking questions and making things.
excellent.
And
Wow.
yeah, the second one, I was also just aware. I knew I was in a dream, but I was observing it and moving through it and reacting with it.
Now, on that note, have you done yoga nidra?
Which is
a yogi sleep. It's a relaxation process. You can do it on a shavasana, laying down on your back, and actually you're going through a physical sheet of a layer of your body, go to the prana part of it, and then you go to the mental and emotional, and then you're relaxing and dropping, and ultimately you go to the fifth one, because you said you experienced that blessed body.
right.
That was the reason I said, did you do any yoga nidra to go there or no?
No, I didn't. I just did my normal practice, which was Kriya Yoga, which is a technique where you move energy through your body. And then right before I did it, I would just express gratitude that my cancer was gone. and I would act really happy that it was gone. And I was just waiting for it to come from the outer layers of my soul down into my physical soul, my body. But every day I just expressed how happy I was that it was gone. And then after my meditation, I would express the same thing. And Kriya Yoga is my daily practice, and it's a very powerful system. And it's the only thing I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life because I've committed to it. So
excellent, excellent, very good. And now I have a question for you on the area of herbs. The main issue of these days, when I look at most of the people I'm interacting because of my classes, and one of the things I'm constantly dealing with, it's either short-term stress or chronic stress. People are dealing with it constantly. And also with the people that they have autoimmune disease, or even they have a known disease that is also hurting them. All of them, basically, we find out underneath of all of it is the stress. So what is the way that you're dealing with stress when someone contacts you and tell you, I am in this period of stress, how you can help them?
Well, the first thing I do, because I have an herb company that's all based on stress. The entire company was just based on the idea that people have stress, and most of their illnesses is based on that. And so that came from my working in LA and Venice Beach and West Hollywood for 14 years. And everybody I talked to was stressed out. Funny enough, in the early 90s, no one would admit their stress. No one wanted to say that they had any stress at all. I even had a client who told me he didn't have any stress at all. None. He was just nothing going on. Of course, you have to realize most most people don't tell the truth. It's just a fact of life. And so one day I was giving him some of the most powerful herbs I could give anybody. He was spending $500 or $600 every week or two. I mean, he was buying really high quality extracts and taking them, and said he couldn't feel anything, but he wasn't stressed. And so one day he stopped coming in. And a few weeks later, I just happened to pick up the LA Times, which I never really look at. And there was this picture. He was in the LA Times. He had died, but he had been on trial for murder the whole time that I was talking to him. So he died of a heart attack. And but he didn't want to admit he had any stress. Now in his case, I knew he hadn't done anything. It was just a connived thing by some other family that wanted to pin him on it because he got left some money in a will. And so they just accused him of killing the person who died. And it really was, he was just their best friend. And that's why they left him some money, And so, but, he admitted, he just said he didn't have any stress. Nobody wants to say it. But underlying almost every problem that people have is stress. And it became quite apparent early on that we would always slip reishi mushroom into almost everybody's program without saying that it was just for stress, because people wouldn't want to take it. We'd give some other lofty description of it, that it was just so good for you and all these things, which was true. But if they stuck to it and took it for a month, and took the anti-stress things in their program for a month, normally when they came back to see you, at least half of their problems had disappeared. Amazing. And you haven't done anything other than relax their nervous system.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Actually, I had, from my 20s, I had gastritis, I had colitis, and I had sciatic pain. And I was going through these periods of allergies. Like, I was sneezing for several days. like 100, 200 sneeze,
Yeah.
or eating all over my body. So for my gastritis, I was going to doctor and they were giving me certain medication, like at the time it was Librox and Tagamet. Tagamet was more new at the time, 30 some years, 40, actually, no, 40 some years ago. And now, and every time I was talking to them, they were telling me, especially those that they came from US, they were saying, you need to change your lifestyle. And when I was asking, so what do you mean by lifestyle? They said, we don't know, but you need to change your lifestyle. A friend of mine said, let's go to yoga. I went to that class. The first session of yoga, I got such a relaxation that I never had it in my life. In Shavasana, I lay down and go like, wow, it was out of this world. I knew there is something in there.
Yeah.
So I seriously start working on it, and 6 months later, gastritis was gone, sciatic pain was almost managed, and colitis was gone. Allergies was gone before in the first 3 months. And so if a young man like who I was at the time, and I had so much insecurities, worries, concerns, and many things, someone comes to you and tell you, you know what, I'm not sleeping well, my digestion is not good, I have gastritis and I have colitis. So are you still helping them to work on their stress level?
Oh, yeah, you would have to, because think about digestion. When you have a stress response, which most people are in a stress response all day long. When you're in chronic stress, the difference between having a stressful moment and having chronic stress is the moment passes and then your body regroups and secretes different hormones to recover. With chronic stress, it never does that. It just stays stressed. And so you're flooded with all this, cortisol, all these other hormones, but you never go into the recovery phase. And in that state, your digestion is working less than 50%. Because in nature, if you become stressed, let's say a wild animal attacks you, you don't need to digest your food. You need to survive. All your energy goes to your muscles and your brain and all this flood of sugar. And then you're just hyped up to fight. That's why they call it fight or flight. You're either running away, trying to save your life, or you're fighting to the death. And so in that state, your body just naturally shuts off all the things it doesn't need. And it doesn't need to digest your meal if you're fighting. It needs energy in your muscles. So you go through that state all day long and you can't digest your food. And then the damage is multiplied by the fact that when most people get stressed, they eat the worst food they ever want to get a hold of. Because they're stressed, they'll eat anything. They just want to grab quick carbs, cookies, ice cream, soda pop, all the stuff that you normally don't have in a diet. And that's what they live on, because they just got to feed their nervous system. They just got to feed this feeling they have. And most people, and this is the key root to all of it, is that most people want to change the way they feel because they don't feel good, right? So the quickest way to do that, smoking, taking drugs, eating sugar, or drinking alcohol. It's the 4 quickest ways to change the way you feel. So the whole key to everything.
Mix the alcohol with the sugar.
Yeah. So the whole key to everything is eat a diet and have a lifestyle that makes you feel good most of the time. And then you don't crave things to change the way you feel. So person comes to me right away, I give them an anti-stress formula. Adaptogenic herbs will calm your nervous system and get rid of the chronic stress, meaning that when you take them for a while, your body can go into stress and then it shuts it off. And then you start to recover. In chronic stress, most people don't really sleep very well. and that's part of the stress response. But sleep is the only way that most humans can shut off their stress and go back into healing, but they're missing it a lot of times. So even just taking the herbs during the day will allow you to fall into sleep at night because your nervous system has changed. It's going back to parasympathetic instead of sympathetic, which is fight or flight.
Excellent. Excellent. So that's for chronic. How about aging?
Aging?
Aging.
Well, there's a lot
I
of
know
things.
stress has an impact on the aging. It's
Right.
make it much faster.
Yeah.
I heard ladies get going through the menopause much earlier than their age, and caused by stress. So what is the same thing? You're starting with that baseline.
Want them to take a anti-stress formula because everybody's stressed. You have to be able to relax. When you're stressed out, you don't absorb nutrients from your food very well. You usually eat poorer food, and then the pathways into your cells by which nutrients go into the cell actually disappear. That's a known fact. And so stress impacts everything, impacts aging, if you want to look at it that way. Everybody could benefit from just taking an anti-stress formula once a day and forgetting about it. That's the best thing, is just forget about it. You can't sit around and think you're waiting for something to happen. What happens is you'll notice after a while that everything seems easier, and that certain things that really bother you didn't bother you that day. And that's a sign the formula is working for you. And maybe you're sleeping better.
Excellent. I love that. I love that. So do you my questions are done. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
No. But I want to hear from you if you have any anything that you want to share or put it on top of it.
Well,
anything comes to your mind.
I want to just say a few things about herbs for stress, since most of your people, I think, are yoga people, and they also are probably meditate, and stress messes with both those things.
Yes. Yes.
Because stress makes you more tense. In Chinese medicine, what they usually say is stress. If you've ever gone to a Chinese herbal doctor, I can almost guarantee you the first time you go, he'll tell you there's something wrong with your liver, right? And right away, you'll think, I've got toxins in my liver. I have poison I have to get rid of, right? But what he actually means, in Chinese medicine, your liver is part of your nervous system. He's telling you you're too stressed out, and that your liver energy is really tense, right? And it needs to be smooth. So try and think of this energetically. When your liver becomes tense, like a muscle, like say you just flex your bicep, well, you got to let go of it sometime, right? Because if you don't, there's no energy going to go through it, right? It has to relax. It's tension and relax. When your liver becomes tense, which is part of your nervous system, so the first reaction you get to a stressful moment, in Chinese medicine, your liver tenses up, and then your nervous system gets out of whack. And so now, like I mentioned before, it interrupts your digestion. Your food's not digesting properly. You might get acid reflux. That's just a sign you're highly stressed, because the liver is supposed to let everything move down and around your body. It's like a field general. It directs energy everywhere. So now you're missing the down and around function of your liver. So you're getting acid reflux. You also have very tense shoulder and neck muscles, because the energy's rising instead of going down and around. So if you have knots in your shoulder and you think a massage therapist, they're never going to get it out unless you deal with your liver. You have to move the energy, and then it just melts and it just disappears. Yeah. And so once you do that, then this is how it affects yoga. In yoga, if you're tense, then you can't stretch fully. All your tendons and ligaments are part of your liver energy. So if there's tension, it's too tight. You can't seem to stretch very far. You're just, someone who's really tense like that might bend down to touch their toes and get about this far from it. But if you had the right herbs and some acupuncture, maybe, after a few days of relaxing, you could probably touch your toes or put your fingers under them, right? Because it's just a tension issue. It's the same issue if you're one of those people that goes to an acupuncture or a chiropractor and it feels fantastic. You put your back, in place, and a day or two later, you feel like you didn't do anything. It's because your muscles are too tense and they're pulling everything back out. So you have to deal with it. You have to deal with the pattern. You're in a holding pattern that's just pulling everything apart. So the way it affects meditation, though, and this is what I love about adaptogenic herbs, because when you take adaptogenic herbs, what they're trying to do is work on what they call the HPA axis, which is your hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, and the signal for stress, right? Well, those same two, hypothalamus and pituitary, are in your brain, and they're related to the energy centers in your brain that you're trying to open up when you're meditating. All meditation is really designed to open up the energy centers in your head so you move past your mental, emotional body and get out into the cosmos and the higher levels of your soul. And it brings light into your entire system. That's how you bring light into your system. And so through prayer and meditation. So when you're highly stressed, all those centers are overactivated and they're basically not letting light or energy into your brain. So if you use adaptogenic herbs, if you look beyond the normal stuff, which is, they lower cortisol. They help you be more relaxed, but they also open your heart and they open the energy centers in your brain. So when you sit down to meditate, you actually get more benefit. You're actually able to put more light into your body. And so there's this other effect of herbs that most people don't think about. But we are energy beings. We have an energy anatomy, and adaptogens feed right into that, especially reishi mushroom, the one I took and had my experience. It was because of a lot of things came all together at one moment. One part of that was that I was a very strict vegetarian for about 10 years at that time. I had a very clean energy body. One of the things that vegetarian food does, it's a very cleansing diet. So it cleanses all your liver. It helps your liver calm down. It cleans everything in your body, but it also slightly opens up pathways into your brain because your heart's a little less heavy. You're more sensitive to things, right? So I'd been on a diet for 10 years. And then reishi mushroom itself, in the right form, opens up your third eye and your crown chakra. So I was just in an energetic state where I was really open. And then I drank this tea and I had that experience. And there's probably a little karma thrown in there with it. It was supposed to happen. But then I got popped into an altered state for about 7 days, and nobody else did that drank the tea. All they had to say was that it tasted bad. And that was about it.
Wow.
And so in their limited thinking, because everybody has limited thinking of one way or another, people were saying I was having flashbacks. I had to be having flashbacks because in their mind, that's the only thing they could actually compute. It's the only thing that in their frame of reference, how you could have an altered state. And I found that very funny because in the herb shop that I was in, it was all about spirit. They were always talking about having Shen experiences and having, all these magical experiences that could happen taking Shen tonics, which reishi is a Shen tonic. Shen just roughly translates as your spirit, your higher vibration. But it turns out I learned from that experience that nobody had ever had one. Wow. And so they were all just mimicking things they read in a book. And here I had one and nobody could understand I was in the middle of it. So that's why I became an herbalist. I had to stick around and figure it out.
Wow. Wow. And so if we want to bring this together, one side is herbs, another side is your Kriya Yoga, and probably I assume your Kriya Yoga, you already know how to breathe. So how to breathe and how to meditate, you have that, and that's one. And also attitude of gratitude. This is 3. So what else you mentioned that it was interesting? It's like all of this together works together. What you eat and what you not eat, what you use or what you not use, also it's very important on that. And were you always this calm and relaxed and with this sense of humor, or no, it shifted at certain times?
I've always had a wild sense of humor. I think it's because it was a defense mechanism I came up with when I was a kid, because I was picked on a lot and bullied around by a lot of older kids. And so I could always make fun of them and insult them, which made them want to kill me more if they caught me. But that was my defense mechanism. And I do have a very funny way of looking at life, right? But I always appeared calm. When I had my big experience with reishi, one of the things I realized was that most of my problems were stress. I never realized I was stressed because I didn't have the education about it or the awareness about it to know that I was highly stressed. But I was always acting calm because I'm very introverted. So I'm quiet. I don't make much noise. I'm always just passive in the room. But at the same time, I was so stressed out, I could have just cracked apart, right?
Yes.
The very first thing I noticed when I started having my altered experience with reishi, and you have to remember too, I had chronic fatigue. I was a type of person who was so tired, I couldn't ever sit down. So when I went into the shop to apprentice, I'd be there 8 or 9 hours. I'd never sit down. I'd never take a lunch. I might snack, but I'd never sit down, because if I sat down, I'd pass out. I couldn't stay awake. If I sat down, I'd just fall asleep. I'd just fall on the floor and that'd be it. So I always had to stay up and moving or I wouldn't be awake. So I'm walking home, basically can't wait till I get home to lay down and fall asleep. And I have this experience. It starts happening. And the very first thing I noticed was I relaxed and I had a tremendous amount of energy. I felt totally alive and energized. I wasn't tired at all. And I realized at that moment that even with chronic fatigue, you have a lot of energy in your body. Because even though I had chronic fatigue, I ate really well. I mean, I ate a really pristine diet, very good food. You know, people might look down on it now because it's vegetarian and stuff, maybe a little lacking in protein or something, but I ate just an amazing amount of fresh, clean food, organic all the time. But I had no energy. I had chronic fatigue. And so when I had that experience, I realized I was full of energy. And the reason I wasn't feeling it was my stress. And I think this is the way with most people, even though you can be feeling completely wasted and exhausted, you have a reservoir of energy somewhere in your body. You have to shut off the stress and stop the leakage of energy out of your system. In Chinese medicine, they call that a leak. You have a hole that your energy is just pouring out of. And it's usually just your adrenals. Your adrenals are turned on in fight or flight, and they never shut off. So they call it a leak. It's like a leaky faucet in your house. It's going on all the time, 24 hours a day.
The way I hear you, it's like when we have a stress, we are like this tight.
Tight.
And all of a sudden, with those adaptogenics, it's start relaxing, the flow opens up. Now all of a sudden I'm full of energy that I was not 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of contraction.
Yeah, you contract.
Contraction is gone. The stress is a sign of contraction. Now,
Right.
it could be physical contraction, mental contraction, or even emotional contraction.
It's all bound together.
Amazing.
Emotions are the thing that cause all of it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
all of it is happening in that third layer.
That third layer, and in fact, in Amit Goswami's books, he talks about how mental emotion is your karma. It's literally just dealing with the emotional patterns you're always in is what you brought from the last life. You never learned how to deal with them, so you're doing it again.
Yes.
So after my experience, I was still calm and relaxed outwardly, but now I was inwardly. I had, not all the time. I wasn't perfect just from having an experience, but it started the process of becoming that type of energy.
All of a sudden, you change the valves, the flow is opened up, and now it's like you are becoming a vessel for someone who's gonna live the way he desired to live. Wow.
It started a 10-year phase of just experiences, having experiences every week of something that had to do with energy. For some reason, my karma this lifetime was to learn about energy, your personal energy, your soul, all those things. That's, you've heard of past life regressions, things like that. Everyone I've ever had, turns out I've been a monk for at least 10 different lifetimes. And so this lifetime, my whole thing is getting out of being a monk. But it's hard for me. It's my nature to become a monk and sit around at the house, right? It's just my nature. But even your karma and past lives are just things that you're not stuck with. There's just things you're supposed to work on in this lifetime. Being an introvert, that's just what I'm supposed to work on this lifetime. How to overcome that. I don't have to get rid of it. There's a lot of it that's really amazing to be an introvert. But you have to transcend that and have it be part of your personality instead of controlling everything that you do.
Wow. And where can people find you? They can contact you?
You can find me on rogerdrummer.com.
rogerdrummer.com and with the double M, the drummer.
Just like a drummer in a band.
Okay.
So it's really easy to find, rogerdrummer.com. That's my writing website. That's where I just write articles, post things that I might be putting in a book in the future. And so there's different columns of what I'm writing about, and anything that comes to me, I just post it there. And then I have a consult page. And then if they want to take a look at herbs, I also have an herb company at herbworks.com. That's really simple, herbworks.com. Excellent. And that's where you can get adaptogenic herbs and brain formulas, things like that.
Excellent. Really appreciate it. And again, a disclaimer, whatever we said here, it doesn't mean you should not go to the professional to get diagnosed and get a proper medication or whatever is required. But we are sharing what was our experiences, and we are offering what works for us. And as I said last time, don't do this at home.
Well, herbs you can do at home, but you have to, if you have a major medical issue, you need to go see a professional and get a diagnosis.
Exactly. And also something I realize many people, they don't consider it. They go and work on medical side of it, but they never work on mental and emotional.
Yeah.
It's not working on my mental emotional. It's even I have the best herbs and stuff. If I don't deal with it.
Yeah, I have a very different approach to Western medicine. Most people just think it's evil and terrible, and not me. I think Western medicine is a perfect system for the people that use it, because most of the people using it don't have an alternative, and they don't know enough about anything other than just going and taking care of their symptom. So it's perfect for them. My problem with Western medicine is that they don't allow for people like me to use my insurance to go see an acupuncturist or a chiropractor, or to get some herbal therapy, or to have some tests at a functional medicine doctor.
Actually, actually, in last 30 years, it got much better.
Oh, it's getting better, but it's
in
not there.
90s, in 90s, this was not easy. Even in 2005, 2006, I was going to my chiropractor and my insurance was paying for it. So, and my acupuncturist, my insurance was paying it. So things start shifting.
But not every policy is available to most people for that.
Yeah.
And like I've been turned down in the past for getting a vitamin D test. What's so radical about vitamin D test? It's just like, it's like the things they decide to pay for are just unbelievable. Look at my cancer journey. They would have gladly have paid, $40,000 to a hospital for my operation. And then I would have had to owe myself probably 10 of it, but that's not a problem to them. But if I would have asked them for $500 for herbs instead and skip it, no, that's just nothing, So I saved them almost $38,000.
And as you said, your doctor said, if I want to, it's like, if I consider what you have done with yourself,
right,
real thing that is happening, I need to close my business. I need to give up my license and start another path. And it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, he's honest. I admire that. That's what he does. And he has success with a lot of people. That's the system they want to use. So more power to them. I don't care what people do for their cancer. If but you have to believe it's going to help you. If you're just sitting around just thinking, oh God, I hope. No, you have to believe it's the thing you want, and you love it and commit to it. And that changes the whole outcome and results. You have to believe in it. But any system, it doesn't matter if you're looking at the normal cancer protocols or what I did. There's no guarantees to any of it.
Isn't that Jesus says, go because your faith healed you.
Right, your faith healed
you. Your faith healed you.
Right. That's true. Having faith in what you're doing is the big key to everything. So I remember a talk by Bernie Siegel, who said that he had a cancer group, and in his cancer group, there was somebody there that got rid of their cancer using chemotherapy, right? And there was a guy in the group that got rid of his cancer drinking carrot juice. He goes, who cares? They got rid of their cancer. Why does anybody care?
No, it reminds me of something that Henry Ford was saying. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, either way you're right. I think the whole magic of it is who we are in that relationship.
Right. And then you have, and back to that old karma issue, there's always a little bit of karma thrown into everything.
Yeah.
And so, but, and if you fail at what you're attempting to do, you're only failing on the level of getting rid of something you wanted to get rid of. It doesn't mean you overall failed. Moving on to the next plane is not a failure. I know it's hard for people to accept that concept, but there's a tremendous amount of healing that can happen even in death. And you hear this so often, that people heal relationships that they didn't have the courage to heal for 30 years of their life until they're in that last space. And they come to a place of wisdom where things just change, and they're able to go into a sacred space and heal their relationship. So, life is complicated. Yeah.
Very much, very much. I really appreciate your time again. Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And hopefully pretty soon I'm gonna invite you to one of my classes. Hopefully to
all right.
Some of my students, they have a lot of questions to ask you.
Well, that'd be great. We just do a question and answer thing.
Sure. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.